Hi everybody, this is Jamie with C4 Depot. I'd like to go over a quick tutorial on using the Instant City preset with CityRig 2.0. Now, once you double click on the Instant City preset, you're going to want to do a couple things right off the bat. First, you're going to want to go into your project settings and let's turn on the view clippings so that we go from medium to huge. That will allow you to see the entire city in your viewport. The second thing, let's go to the display in the viewport and switch from garage shading to quick shading. I think those are going to be the best settings that we can use for the viewport. Now, by default, when you load Instant City, a static low poly proxy for the entire city is loaded. And that allows us to have a pretty good frame rate in the viewport. There are no texture maps, and you can't edit this, but it allows you to get a good camera angle at whatever part of the city that you want to do, and you can even render it because the proxy is designed not to render at all. So if you don't want to use the static proxy, then the next best option would be to go into your interface and let's turn the static low poly proxy off. Make sure that disabled materials is still on. But first, let's go to the block cloners and let's turn them off. We're going to turn off all of the geometry for the blocks. It'll keep the buildings, but the traffic lights and all of that stuff that's in the block will be turned off, and that'll give you a pretty decent frame rate. So now let's go and turn off this texture disabler, and let's turn on the real sky, or the easy skies, so that we can just get a little bit of illumination onto the scene. And it's going to take a while to load the textures, but there they go. Now you'll see that what we have is we've got all of the cities lined up in rows. I think it's from 1 to about 16 or so. And if you open up the downtown zone, you can go to the downtown buildings. Now if you wanted to edit something, these are all in order. So if you go to row 1, the first building is the hotel. So it kind of goes from left to right when you're looking at these numbers. And the second building would be this one, which would be the Octagon building. And let's just kind of zoom in on that for a half a second, because a lot of these buildings have customizable features. They have an Expresso interface all of their own. Now everything in CityRig pretty much has its own little proxy. It's a low poly static thing that is just really one material so that you can get a quick render in the viewport. But let's just say, for example, you wanted to do something with this Octagon building. You'd want to turn on the high poly geometry, and then in this interface you can actually change the number of stories that the building has to adjust that building to whatever height you desire. And if you want to make a night scene, it's really easy because all of the night city lights can be turned on with one click. So I'm going to turn off the easy sky, turn that off, and I'm going to turn on the night window lights. Now all this really does is turn on the Luminance channel for the windows. It doesn't really do anything else in the city. Okay, so that's the Luminance channel for the windows showing up, but there really isn't any other light in the scene. So if you want to actually illuminate this for a night shot, let's just go back into the interface. Let's turn on some lights. One of the things that we do have is we have structure and building lights. That would be like the actual physical lights in a parking lot or on a parking ramp or on the roof of a building. And we have an ambient street level light function that gives the whole lower level of the city a glow. And without turning on any actual physical lights like on the block cloner, let's just see how that looks. Okay, so now the street level around the sidewalks are starting to glow, as is pretty typical in a real city. But we don't have any real physical lights yet, like the street lights. So if we wanted to turn on those, we would go back into our interface. I'm going to turn this off. And let's go into the block preferences. Now we're going to have to turn on like the downtown cloner. That'll just turn on all of the street geometry. And let's see what we've got here. We've got traffic lights. So let's enable the lights on the traffic lights. And just for the heck of it, let's turn on some retro lampposts. And we're going to enable the lights on those. And I don't know, let's just turn on some kiosks, might as well. And to get a better sense of what this is doing, I think I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see the actual lights. Okay, so you're seeing how this scene is rendering now. And although we have a ton of lights turned on, and it is probably the most complicated setup for the computer to render because there's just so much stuff going on, you can see how all of these physical lights combined with the luminance channels being switched on produces a very nice, very realistic look for the street and the sidewalk, and really gives it a very realistic night feel. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to switch on the low static proxy just so that we can kind of zoom around a little bit quicker. And now that I'm looking at the bridges, maybe I think I'll talk about the bridges for a second. Okay, now we've got two bridges, a railroad bridge and an arched bridge. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn these things on like that. Now, if you open up the globals, there's a folder for bridges. And the arched bridge has an Expresso setting so that you can actually move this bridge one block at a time, and you can duplicate it and have as many bridges as you want, and it will automatically position itself to the correct street. It's kind of a neat little function. And I'm going to go back and start showing you some more of these globals. What we can do is we can also turn on a sports stadium, and we've got a nuclear power plant in the distance. We've got perimeter fences and roads that are here with like a nice tree-lined boulevard. I'm going to turn the Central Park on, and we also have some power lines that go to the nuclear power plant in the city. I'm going to just zoom in here a little bit so you can just sort of see how this looks. It's kind of hard to get it all in, but okay, let's try to do that maybe. So that's kind of the layout of the city, and the traffic lights are synchronized now, so that when you change the east-west lights, the north-south lights have an opposite color to them. So on the retro street lights, we have a choice between the the globe light head that we've had in the previous ones, and we can also turn on all more traditional East Coast lantern style. And that's pretty much it for the Instant City preset. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it at least mildly interesting, and we will see you at the depot. Take care now. Bye-bye.